Hi everyone and welcome to Entry Level 2 English, week 3 we are on now. So yeah, getting started now. Should be starting to get used to the videos and hopefully you've had some video calls with me and you're getting used to those as well and how it all works. So hopefully it's getting a little easier to understand. So yeah, welcome to Entry Level 2 English week 3. How are you? Are you all well? I hope so. I hope you've had a good week and I hope you're all safe and staying safe. So this week we are going to start with recapping what we've done over the last 2 weeks. Okay, so we're going to have a recap. We're going to quickly go over the alphabet and that pronunciation. Make sure you're getting it right. We're then going to do your spelling test. Okay, so we've got our spelling test from last week, our words from last week. And then we're going to have a quick recap of the present simple with positive statements and negative statements. So we're going to do that first. We'll recap all of the things we've done already. And then we will be looking at this week doing present simple questions. Okay, so we're going to be looking at how to form questions in the present simple. All right, so that's what we've got planned for this week. So I'm going to start off with just asking you, really, if you can just go through with me the vowel sounds from the alphabet. So the vowel sounds are these ones. And these are the ones that people usually get muddled up. Well, certainly these three here are usually what people get muddled up. So these sounds here, so these are the vowel sounds from the alphabet. So we've got A. Can you say that for me? A. E. E. So it's a wide mouth. E. I. I. As in I. Sounds like I. I. O, so round shaped mouth, O, and U, okay? A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. All right? And the other ones that we just sometimes, our consonants are the other letters, we call them consonants. And sometimes we get those muddled, particularly certain ones which are, let's do them in the right order. So our consonants are all the others, B, C, D, F, and then these ones people get muddled quite often, and these ones. So we've got G, H, J, Y. A lot of people get this one wrong. Excuse me. Y and W. Okay, so just practice those sounds. Make sure, I can't see the bottom of the board very well, okay. Let's just take that way a little bit more. There we are. Make sure you practice those sounds, particularly any that you are really finding difficult, and practice that alphabet. Make sure that you can do it perfectly. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay, practice those sounds. Make sure you're perfect with them because you will need to be able to spell things in your exam. So you will have to say those letters out loud. But we've been practicing these in our video calls, so you should be getting quite confident now with them. Okay, I'm just going to pause and get... Okay, so now we're going to do our spelling test. So make sure you've got your pen and your paper ready to do your spelling test. So we've got 10 spellings today, haven't we, that you should have learnt? 10 spellings that you should have learnt. So how many are you going to get out of 10? How many are you going to get correct? How many are you going to get right? So we're going to start with your spelling test. I'm going to say the word and you're going to write the word down. No cheating, okay? So if you're ready, number 1, January. January is the first month of the year. January. Number 2, February. February is the second month of the year. February. Number 3, March. March is when, in March, it's my birthday. March. March. Number 4, April. In April, it usually rains a lot in England. April. Number 5, May. May is the 5th month of the year. May. And number 6, June. June is the 6th month of the year. June. Number 7, Tuesday. Tuesday. Number 8, Wednesday. Wednesday. The middle of the week. Wednesday. January, February, March, April, May, June, Tuesday, Wednesday. That was number 8. Number 9, Thursday. Thursday. And number 10, Saturday. Saturday. Okay, so that's all your spellings. If you need to listen again, you can rewind the video and listen again if you need to, okay? But otherwise we're going to go through these spellings on the board, so I'm just going to write them up. Okay, so let's go through these spellings here. So, January, January, January. Number 2, February, February, very difficult to spell that one. Number 3, March, March, ch sound, that's ch. Number 4, April, April. Number 5, May, May. Number 6, June, June. Number 7, Tuesday, Tuesday. Number 8, Wednesday, Wednesday. Number 9, Thursday, Thursday. And number 10, Saturday, Can you see that bottom one there? It's a bit, it needs to come down again, doesn't it? It keeps going back up. Let's hope you can see that. Number 10, Saturday, Saturday. Saturday. Okay, so that's our spellings. How did you do? How many did you get out of 10? Did you get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Did you get 10 out of 10? Let me know how you did. Hopefully you did okay. Any that you're getting wrong, keep practicing them. If you're getting them wrong, practice them, learn them. These are really important words to be able to spell, just for everyday life and for your work, and also for the exam. Often days will come up that you have to spell, so make sure you learn these. We will look at next week's spellings in a little bit, so I will tell you what your spellings are for next week very soon. But yeah, if you're getting any of these wrong, practice them. Okay, hopefully you're starting to get the days of the week correct now because we've done them before and now we're doing these ones again. So hopefully you're getting those right. Okay, well done. Okay, so we're just going to review what we did last week and the week before just to make sure that it's in here. The more we do it, the more likely you are to remember it. So we're just going to review that now. So we're looking at the present simple tense. We're using present simple tense when we talk about routines and habits, things we always do, things that are true at the present time. For facts and truth, things that are always true. And for timetabled events as well, we use the present simple tense. So remember why we use the present simple tense. Here is the base form of our verb. To go, to live, to work, to play, to do, to have. Here's our subject. I, you, he, she, it, you, they, we. Okay? You singular, you plural. You or you. Okay? Singular and plural. We have both. You singular, you plural. And here's our present simple form. Now most of our verbs, they stay the same in this present simple tense, but not with he, she, it. Remember, we must add either es or s or ies. So, in the present simple, go stays the same as the base form. I go, you go, they go, we go. But he, she, it becomes goes and we add es. I go to school on Mondays. She goes to school on Mondays. Okay, so we add es with go. And if you remember, live, it stays the same. I live, you live, he, she, it lives. We add just an s and then it stays the same, live. Okay, so we add an s for he, she or it. But otherwise it stays the same as the base form of the verb, the original form of the verb. But for he, she and it we add s. He lives in Wilton. I live in Wilton. Work is the same. We just add s. I work, you work, he, she, it works. We add an s for he, she, it. Play is the same. We add an s for plays, for he, she and it. Okay, I play, you play, he plays. Do, what happens to do? Do we know what happens to do? Do becomes does. We add es again. He does the washing at the weekends. Okay, so do, does for he, she, it. Have, what about have? That's a bit different as well, have. Have becomes has. So we add an s, but we take the v and the e away. I have, you have, he, she, it has. I have a cat, you have a cat, he has a cat. Okay, so in the present simple form, it changes for he, she, it. Some things like study becomes ies. I study, he studies. Can't even write properly. Becomes ies, we drop the y. If there's a vowel and a y, we just add s. If there's a consonant and a y, we drop the y and add ies. Okay, so if there's a vowel, a, e, I, o, u, and a y, we just add s. So buy becomes buys, play, plays. We just add S because there's a consonant before the Y. A-E-I-O-U. Okay? But if there's a vowel before the Y, if there's a consonant before the Y, we drop the Y and add I-E-S. So cry becomes cries. Study becomes studies. Okay? That's a rule worth remembering, okay? So when we change these verbs to the present simple form with he, she, it, if there's a Y with a consonant, B, C, D, those ones, then we remove the Y and put I-E-S. Okay, so present simple for routines, for habits, for facts, for truths. I live in Wilton. He lives in Wilton. We add that S for he, she and it. We add some form of S. E-S, S, I-E-S. Okay, have becomes has. All right, really important. Remember though, with be, it's a bit different, isn't it? What happens with be? Oops. So with the verb to be, it's a little bit different, isn't it? What happens with be? Can we remember? So it becomes I am, you are, he, she, it is, you are, they are, we are. So remember with be it's different. We don't add just an S. It doesn't become bees, I be, he bees. We just change it. So I am, you are, he, she, it is, you are, they are, we are. Okay? Really important to remember that. The other verbs we add S for he, she, it, but for be it changes, doesn't it, for the present simple. Okay? Right, I'm just going to quickly look at negatives. Okay, so let's quickly recap the negative form of the present simple tense. So when we're using the present simple tense and we want to say a negative statement, a negative sentence, we add the verb do, as in do not or does not. So we've got our base form of our verbs here. Okay, so remember our base form, the original form of our verbs. So we've got to go, to play, to live, to eat, to have, for example. Here are our subjects, I, you, he, she, it, you, they and we, singular, plural, okay? And here is the do that we add in. So I don't go. So we use the base form of the verb from that sentence, but we put don't before it. I don't go to work at the weekends. You don't go to work at the weekends. Now he, she, it doesn't go. So that's where we add our S in, is there in the do, okay? So he, she, it doesn't go to work at the weekends. You don't go, they don't go, we don't go. So I go to work at the weekends. I don't go to work at the weekends. He goes to work at the weekend. He doesn't go to work at the weekends. So our verb, our present simple verb, goes back to the base form when we make it a negative statement because we add in don't or doesn't. And remember, do not becomes don't, does not becomes doesn't. So practice that pronunciation. Don't, doesn't. Practice that pronunciation. Make sure that you're shortening those words when we speak, because in spoken English, we are shortening, contracting those words. When we're writing formally, you would write the full word, do not, does not. But in spoken English, we would contract them, don't and doesn't. So with most of our verbs, we add that do in before. So with play, I don't play football. He doesn't play football. Live, I don't live in London. He doesn't live in London. Eat, I don't eat meat. He doesn't eat meat. Have, have's a bit different. So I don't have children. He doesn't have children. Sometimes we can say haven't, but that's more informal. So stick with this one rule, and that way you won't go wrong. So I don't have children. He doesn't have children. Okay, so we go back to our base form of the verb after the do, don't, or the doesn't. Nice and easy. Remember, we did this last week. You've had some practice. We're just doing a review just to make sure that it stays there. And when I ask you questions on our video calls, I'll be expecting you to give me some negative sentences like this and some negative statements, okay? Right, just going to pause and put the next bit up. Okay, now remember, with the verb to be, it is different. Always this verb to be causes us problems, doesn't it? Because it's always different. So when we use the verb to be in our sentences, if we're making a negative statement, we keep the present simple form of the verb to be. So I am, you are, he, she, it is, you are, they are, we are. But we put not after it. Okay, so there's no do, there's no don't, there's no doesn't. We just put not after that present simple form. So I am not hungry. You are not hungry. He is not hungry. They are not hungry. We are not hungry. So we add not after our present simple form. So the present simple form stays the same for our negative sentences. Okay, but we put not afterwards. And remember, we talked about last week how we can contract those as well. So it becomes I'm not. I'm not hungry. And then for you are not, we have two choices. And you can choose which one you wish to use. So we have you aren't hungry. Or we can use you're not hungry. You aren't hungry, you're not hungry. Both are correct. And you can choose which one you use. I tend to use the second one, you're not, but it's personal choice, I think, really. He is not becomes he isn't hungry, or he's not hungry. Again, both can be used. She isn't, she's not. He isn't, he's not. So we're either contracting the is and the not, or the he and the is. Both are correct. He is not, he's not. He is not, he isn't. Both are correct. You choose which one you want to use. It's only I am not that we don't, it has to be done I'm not. We don't do it in any other way. But the others we can all change. So they are not can be they aren't, or they're not hungry. They aren't hungry, they're not hungry. We are not, we aren't hungry, or we're not hungry. And you can choose which you say. I tend to use this one, they're not, we're not, I'm not. But it, you know, whichever you prefer, whichever you're more comfortable with, you can use. They're both correct. So whichever one. So remember, with negatives, when we're making present simple sentences, negative, with most verbs we put don't or doesn't before the base form of the verb. I don't play football. He doesn't play football. But with be, we just add not after the present simple form. I'm not. You're not. He's not. They're not. Okay? So keep practicing that. I'll keep questioning you when we do our video calls, but keep practicing and keep practicing. Okay, so that's our recap for this week. That's everything we've done in the last couple of weeks that I've recapped again. So now we're going to look at today's objectives. Okay, so today's objectives, what we're going to be learning today. We've recapped everything we've done over the last couple of weeks, but today we're going to be looking at your new spelling words. So we've got 10 new words, maybe it's 9, I can't remember until I write it down. 9 or 10 new words to learn today. So I'm going to write those down for you in a minute. That's for your test next week, okay? So these will be the new words to learn for next week. We're going to be looking at the present simple tense again, but this time we're looking at question forms. So how to form questions in the present simple tense. For your homework, you're going to be doing some worksheets, some exercises in the present simple tense questions, question forms. So forming questions in the present simple tense, you're going to be doing some worksheets on those. And you're going to be preparing for a Q&A activity on the video call. So I'm going to prepare you to do question and answer activity on our next video call. Okay, so we'll be doing questions and answers on our next video call, and I'll be preparing you for that for your homework. All right, so that's what we've got to do for today. Those are our objectives. All right, I'm just going to pause and put the new spellings up on the board. Okay, so let's have a look at our spelling words for this week. Okay, well, for next week, so learning them this week for next week. So we've got the next 6 months of the year, and then I've just added in a few of the months from last week's, just the ones that are sometimes a bit tricky and people get wrong. So number 1 is July, July. Number 2 is August, August. Number 3, September, September. Number 4, October, October. Number 5, November, November. Number 6, December, December. And then number 7, January, January. Number 8, February, February. And number 9, June, June. So those are our words for next week's test. So you need to learn all of those. There's 9 of them there. Learn all of those for next week, okay? So July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, June. Okay, so make sure you've learnt those 9. All right, there we go. That's your 9 for next week. Okay, so this week we are looking at the present simple tense with questions. So we are just going to run through the rules, and then obviously you're going to practice them, and then we'll practice them with our video calls as well. So question forms. We have 2 types of questions really. We have what we call information questions, and they use these WH words. Where, what, when, who, why and how. And these are our information questions. They are asking for information. So for example, where do you live? I live in Wilton. Okay, so they're asking for some information. Now in the present simple, we use do and does for our information questions and for all our questions. Okay, so we use do and does. So I live, where do you live? I live in Wilton. So we use do with the person we're asking, you, where do you, okay, or the subject, and then we use our verb. So where do you live? What do you do? I am a teacher. When do you wake up? I wake up at 6 o'clock. Who do you work with? I work with 3 other people. Damon, Tom. Why do you like running? I like running because it makes me feel healthy. How do you make cookies? I make cookies by mixing flour, sugar, etc. So these are what we call information questions. And as you can see, we use do with the subject and then our base form of the verb. Our base form of the verb. So we have information question, our WH question as they call them. Even though that starts with an H, we still call them WH questions. Do, subject, base form of the verb. Where do you live? Where do you work? What do you do? What do you like doing? When do you go to bed? When do you cook tea? So information questions. Where, what, when, who, why, how, plus do, plus the subject, plus the infinitive form of the verb. That's how we make a question in general. Now that would be with you or they or we. Okay, so it would stay as do, they, do, you, do, we, or do I. We don't very often ask ourselves the question, where do I live? We don't ask ourselves the question very often, but that would go with do. Now obviously, if it's he, she or it, this becomes does. Okay, that becomes does. So where does he live? So same structure, we've got the information question, the WH question, the verb do, but it becomes does with he, she or it. Then our subject, then our base form of the verb. So where does he live? What does she do? When does he wake up? Who does she work with? Why does she like running? How does he make cookies? Okay, so question forms in the present simple tense. WH question, do or does, subject, base form of the verb. Okay, that's for our information questions. Right, one moment. Okay, also in the present simple tense with question forms we have what we call yes-no questions. So we've got our information questions where we're requiring some information. Where do you live? I live in Salisbury. And then we have our yes-no questions which need a yes or a no. Do you like running? Yes. Do you work in Salisbury? Yes. Do you have any children? Yes. Does she live in London? No. Does he have any pets? No. Yes, no. Okay, so these are our yes-no questions. And they start, we don't have the information question before, we don't have the WH question before. They start with do or does for he and she. So do you, do they, do we, does he, does she, does it. So yes, no questions, we begin with the verb do. Then we have our subject and then our base form of the verb. So it's exactly the same as the WH information questions, but without the where, the what, the why, the when. But the structure's the same. So where do you like running? Oh, I like running in the woods. Why do you work in Salisbury? I work in Salisbury because it's near my house. Okay, so different questions. We are asking for information. But these are structurally the same. Do plus subject plus base form of the verb. But they just require yes or no. Do you like running? No. Do you work in Salisbury? No. Etc. But don't forget, does for he, she and it. Okay, so present simple tense questions, we use the do and the does. And that goes either at the beginning for yes, no, or after the WH question for information questions. Then our subject, then our base form of the verb. Okay, now one last bit. Okay, so we're going to look just briefly now. We'll do some work over this throughout the time because it's quite complicated, but present simple tense question forms with be. So these are information questions. So again, we've got our where, what, when, why, who, how. Okay, but this time instead of do, we use our verb to be, are and is. Okay, we don't really use am because we would be asking ourselves a question. It's quite unusual. What am I? Maybe if we're being reflective, we might ask ourselves a question, but generally we don't use am. So, where are you from? I am from England. What is your name? Now this is complicated because I'm talking about you, so you goes with are. So we would think it was what are you name, but we're talking about the name, which is an it. Your name. My name is. My name is an it. It's the thing, my name. It's not me. So it's quite complicated. My name is Sarah. What is your name? If you think of what you want the answer to be, you can usually make the question easier. When is your appointment? My appointment, so the appointment is it. It is. My appointment is on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Why are you tired? I am tired because I didn't sleep last night. Who is your best friend? My best friend is Sam. My best friend, that's an it, so it is. How are you? I am fine. So where are you from? I am from. So when we have where are you, we reply I am. If the answer is my name or my appointment, my best friend, my children, my cat, my dog, we would be using is your. What is your cat's name? My cat's name is. Okay, so think about the answer. But with B, for information questions, we have the information question, are or is, the subject. Here the subject is you. Here the subject is your name, your appointment. Here it's you, and here it's your best friend. Do you see the subject is your best friend, not you? That's the subject, your best friend, so that's him or her. Here the subject is your appointment, so that's it, which is why we've got this is, because the answer would be my appointment is on Wednesday. So we're going to do some practice of these. They are tricky, quite tricky to learn, so we'll be practicing a lot on video calls, these questions. Right, one last bit. Okay, so with B for yes-no questions, so our information questions with the WH, what, why, when, or yes-no questions with B, they don't start with do, like the other ones, they start with are, is, are or is. We don't generally, again, we don't say am I English? We don't usually ask ourselves questions. You can do, am I English? Maybe if you've forgotten something. Am I 47? Am I 48? Maybe you could. So we could do, but we don't do it very often. So usually it's with are and is. So we start with the verb form of be. Are you English? Yes, I am. Is she a student? Yes, she is. No, she isn't. No, she's not. Are they doctors? Yes, they are. No, they aren't. No, they are not. Is he your brother? Yes, he is. No, he's not. Okay, so again, we have our base, we have our verb to be plus our subject, are you, is she, are they, is he, and then the rest of our sentence here. And it's a state of being, so it tends to be the rest of the sentence rather than because this is our verb, be here. Whereas with the do, with the other verbs, we still use the base form of the verb, do you play football? We still use that other verb because do is replacing the be, I suppose. Okay, so those are our question forms. So with yes, no, with be, we have are or is at the beginning, subject, rest of the sentence. And with WH, we have WH at the beginning, then are or is, and then the subject, rest of the sentence. And with other verbs, not be, we have do, and then the subject, and then the base form of the verb. Do you play? Do you live? Do you work? Or with WH questions, we have WH plus do plus subject plus base form of the verb. What do you do? Where do you live? or does? Does she live in Southampton? Where does she live? Okay, so you're going to be doing some practice of that in your homework, lots of practice, and then we're going to be practicing on our video calls to practice making questions. It's always really hard to make questions. It's one of the things that a lot of people who are learning English get wrong, asking questions correctly. So we're going to do some practice. I'm also going to send you an exercise where you will have to read about somebody, and then you have to make the questions. Underneath there are some questions that you have to make about the person that you're reading, because there's some gaps that you have to fill in. So you have to make questions. And then when we do our video call, you will ask me the questions and I will tell you the answers. And you will fill in the gaps. And I will ask you some questions and I will fill in my gaps. So you'll have to read the information to answer my questions. But I'll explain that homework a little bit more when you read it. When you read the homework, you'll understand, hopefully. So make the questions about the reading. There's a reading, it's all about somebody who plays football, I think, if I remember. It's a big bit of reading, and underneath there are some questions you have to make. And you must ask me on the video call those questions to fill in the gaps in your reading, because there's gaps in the reading, there's little spaces. And also I will ask you questions about the reading and you will have to read and tell me the answers. So we're going to be practicing questions on our video call, okay? Okay, so I think that's everything. So don't forget, learn your spellings, practice the present simple, positives, negatives, questions, positive statements, negative statements, and question forms. Practice, 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 practice. Practice your spelling, learn your new spelling. Keep writing sentences, keep practicing those, and then do your homework with the reading as well, and all the exercises I'm going to send you, the worksheets that I'm going to send you. Okay, I think that's all for this week. So have a great week. I will see you. Don't forget, it needs to be with me in 7 days, okay? You have 7 days to complete your work, and then it needs to be back to me, and you need to organise that video call with me as well so we can do our questions. Okay, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.